how did you first get your hand into stand-up comedy?
It's different. You have to address the fact that you're the only white person on the lineup. And I actually like that. It's not that it even keeps me on my toes. It just, I feel like it keeps my material fresh.
Comedic timing's so important because if you're off by like a second or two, you can literally destroy a bit.
But there's just this sense of, he could have only said that in this room right now.
This seems to be like in your blood. Did it just come naturally for you?
No one knows what it was like to be the top child star at PBS for 3 consecutive seasons and then have your show taken away. No one knows what it's like for Caillou.
Well, welcome. We're back for another episode. Glad you guys could join us today. And today we have a special treat. He's an LA-based stand-up comedian. He runs a live-streamed comedy show on TikTok every evening, performing an hour to 90 minutes where he roasts his commenters' TikTok profiles. Please welcome Parker Dean. Parker, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
No, we're glad to have you. I want to just start by saying, like, how did you first get your hand into stand-up comedy?
Stand-up is something I've wanted to do ever since I was a kid. Right? So it's been a long time coming. When I was like 13 is when I kind of started to write my first jokes and stuff like that. Ever since then I've done a lot of different types of theater. I've done live theater, like stage theater, musicals, plays. I've done an independent movie, some short films. I've done a lot of different stuff, but it's always kind of been stand-up for me that I've wanted to get into. I was just afraid of it for a very long time. But I've been doing it now more or less full-time as my main creative pursuit for the last about 2.5 years. So it's been a lot of fun. But it's something that I wanted to do ever since I was a kid.
Yeah, I can get that. I mean, I've done it before, not a lot myself, and it's absolutely terrifying. But from my experience, when you get the room on your side, nothing's more fun. Like when you get those initial laughs off like your first line, and you've captured them, like it's like addictive, man. You want to keep doing it, right? Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. There is such an art to that idea of getting the audience with you. You got to get the audience with you. It's a very difficult thing to describe because I also teach communication in my business, off the cuff consulting. So like that's something I work with people on public speaking and stuff. And so something that's very difficult to describe is the concept. If you've never done any sort of public speaking, stand up or anything before, is the idea that you have to get the audience with you. They have to be with you. And once you get them with you, then it's a blast. But man, sometimes it takes a minute to get them with you.
Yeah, and when you don't get them on that first line, it's like your momentum just starts to waver, and it's
you got to be resilient in the face of turmoil.
See, that's what the pro would say. I'm not a pro, man. I'm an amateur, so that's why we got you on, man. Are you originally from LA?
No, I'm from Indiana. I'm from Indiana originally. Been out in LA for like 5 years though. But yeah, Indianapolis originally.
And when was that moment where you knew you had to go to LA to do this?
I went to LA because my acting teacher, Eric Altidy, shout out to Eric Altidy, told me to. I didn't actually have any particular draw. I was kind of like a drifter. I had no sense of what I graduated college. I got a job working backstage in the music industry, kind of doing some just PA work in Denver, Colorado. So I kind of just floated out there and stayed with some family for a little while. And I had just had a conversation with an acting teacher of mine, and he had said, you probably should consider making a move to either New York or LA maybe before October. And I'm like, well, New York is cold. I'm not going to New York. So I went out to LA for like a week just to see if I liked it. I did, and then I moved out to LA. I'm happy I'm here now, though. I like it a lot. I have no plans on leaving anytime soon.
And whereabouts are you in LA?
I live in Hollywood. All of my high school classmates can weep because I live in Hollywood. I made it now. I do. I live. It's actually pretty cool. It's pretty cool to think. I grew up next to a cornfield, so it's pretty cool to think about. Like, okay, that's kind of where I came from. And now I'm living literally like 5 minutes from Hollywood Boulevard. Hollywood isn't as glamorous as everybody might think, but I love it. I really love it.
Yeah. Yeah, people get captivated by Sunset Boulevard, and then
Yeah.
when you pull off it, it doesn't always look the same as Sunset. And there's parts of Hollywood Boulevard that you gotta be weary of too.
Parts meaning you add up everything and it creates one big part of this is all of Hollywood Boulevard. The
Yeah,
whole
pretty
thing.
much,
The
pretty
whole
much.
thing. Yeah,
Yep,
the whole thing is
you're
it's a
right.
bit it's particularly if you go really late at night, like around 2 or 3 a.m. when all the bars start closing down and stuff. But yeah, I enjoy it. I like it. I like the weird that is Hollywood. So it's
Yeah,
fun for me. Yeah.
yeah. Did you see a lot of opportunities open up when you were there?
Yeah, I got pretty quickly, like the first I'd have to look at the timeline, but really quickly, I think within the first maybe week or two, I ended up actually getting cast in a community theater musical. So that was cool. Right when I moved out here, there it wasn't a paid gig or anything, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a really cool show. It was called Forbidden Broadway. It's kind of a satire cabaret show of all the famous musicals, the famous Broadway shows. So yeah, that was really cool to do. Very right off the jump. But past that, you gotta network. You gotta work for it. But I find if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to network and go support other people's stuff, particularly I go see my friends' comedy shows and stuff like that. If you're willing to do that, I don't know. I feel like the opportunities, the windows, at least in my experience, the windows have kind of opened for me when I've been willing to do that.
That's awesome, man. You've got some really good content too, and I want to jump to some of that. I was going through your Instagram a while back, and I know we were
Hmm.
talking off camera not too long ago, but I wanted to pull that up, and it's the Caillou clip.
Coming to stage right now, Parker Dean. So many things to do, each day is something new. I asked you not to play that song. No one wants to give any respect to Caillou, though. Nope.
I love that. It was like a grumpy older
Yeah,
Caillou,
exactly.
and that's never what Caillou was
Yeah.
like, right? So I love
How
that.
do you
I
know
knew
what Caillou was like off screen, Mike? You don't know?
that's
No one
true,
wants to give any
man. That's true.
respect
See, I never rolled
to
with
Caillou.
Caillou.
No one knows what it was like to be the top child star at PBS for 3 consecutive seasons and then have your show taken away. No one knows what it's like for Caillou.
It's three more seasons than I've
Yeah.
ever had. But I knew, and like I'm not doing it justice for those on the audio side, so I encourage you to go check out Parker's Instagram. We'll put it in the show notes. But on the video, I just knew it was going to be funny before you even opened your mouth because you came up to this stage with like this unenthusiastic
Yeah.
walk, and you just looked so upset. And it was some of the best comedic
Thank
timing
you.
I've seen. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like
life has been
it
rough
was
for Caillou over the last 23 years, but no one cares about that. No one cares what Caillou.
right, right. And like comedic timing's so important because you're off. If you're off by like a second or two, you can literally destroy a bit. And I know because I've done it many times myself. But how long did it take you to understand comedic timing? Like, was it something you had to learn as part of your craft, or because this seems to be like in your blood, did it just come naturally for you?
I tend to talk way too fast when I'm on stage. That was like been my habit in the past. So I've had to learn how to intentionally slow down what I'm saying. And that's been a little bit of a work, but in terms of comedic timing and stuff, I learned it probably when I was doing musicals in high school. I think probably was where it started for me. Musicals are. I had a great friend of mine named Alan Harbold. He's a working actor out of Atlanta. He's in Atlanta now, and he's something he said. Musicals are a heightened version of reality. There's a heightened version of reality, and I think that's exactly correct. And that lends itself very much to zany, cartoonish kind of comedy. And so there's a lot of moments of laughter in shows like that. And so you have to learn how, with the script that's already pre-planned, how can you pause and make sure, like even something as simple as the audience is laughing, how do you not talk over them? You got to let the laughter hit. There's a crest to it. So and you don't want to wait too long either. You got to almost hit it right. It's like it's going, going, going. They're laughing, and then you got to hit it like right there, right before it completely dips. You know, there's an art to really feeling that out, and I think I learned it doing musicals early on.
That's awesome, man. Do you have ever have trouble adjusting to how your audience is reacting? Like, have you ever had to, because you've been doing this for years now, do you have trouble ever adjusting to what, reading the room kind of thing? Like, okay, that's not working. Have you ever had to
Oh
pivot
yeah.
halfway
I
through a bit
mean,
or a
yeah,
set?
you definitely have to pivot. I enjoy this is where I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to this is why I'm still trying to figure out, like at this point in my career, I guess you could say, how I'm going to fit, because I don't think that I function the same as most stand-up comedians. And I'm not saying I'm special or anything. I'm just saying that I actually enjoy not having to keep my material the same each show, which I'm noticing more of my peers, like the people that I really respect who are very, very funny, they have jokes and they keep them the script is pretty much the same each show. And what I'm
Right.
realizing is I actually like adjusting my material for the audience. So like I did a black room last night. Black room is what they say in stand up is a predominantly African American room. I got invited out. I was the only white guy on the lineup. They usually put like a token white on the lineup of black comedians at a black show. And that's kind of the point, is like, okay, we'll put one white guy on here because the rest of the people are black. And so there's, when you do a black room, it's different. You have to address the fact that you're the only white person on the lineup. And I actually like that. I like the fact that I have to, it's not that it even keeps me on my toes. It just, I feel like it keeps my material fresh. And there's this sense almost of, I don't know if it's novelty or maybe improv a little bit, which I love, but there's just this sense of, oh, so this is, he could have only said that in this room right now. So it makes it almost special.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know if that's quote unquote good stand up, because in stand up, ideally you have your bits that you work on, and then I just see my friends that are very good again crafting these over months, where they'll say the same script
Yeah.
though each show, where me, I feel like I just kind of, sometimes I'll improvise jokes, or I'll have something that popped into my head that day and I'll say it on stage. And it is cool. I'm getting a lot better at, even if it's the first time I'm saying it to an audience, it does still sound,
Yeah.
it sounds way better today than it did 2.5 years ago when I started. So to answer your question, it's a long-winded answer, but to answer your question, I actually
Yeah.
really enjoy pivoting, because it gives me, like that Caillou bit. I'll give you an example. So folks,
Yeah.
you saw me where, I want you to know, I spent my hard-earned dollars and I bought myself fabric glue and felt, and I made Caillou's shirt. And so this is real. This is Caillou's shirt, and he wears it and he likes it. And people ask Caillou, why haven't you bought any new clothes? Well, wouldn't it be nice if Caillou had money to buy new clothes? Wouldn't that be great? That'd be great. Wouldn't it? I'm being Caillou on stage because I'll do it on live stream. I that what you said earlier about I roast my commenters' profiles. I still do that occasionally. These days, I'm doing a lot of character live streams. So if people were to go to, if your audience, everyone wants to come watch me on TikTok, I'll basically be Caillou for an hour, and I'll just try to talk about what I'm going through, and then I'll interact with the comment section. It's a lot of fun. But on stage the other night, I was at the Ice House Ice House California room in Pasadena, and I'm being Caillou on stage, kind of like I was in the clip that your audience saw at the beginning of this episode. And I go up on stage as Caillou, and it's a room full of older people, and I don't think a lot of them had kids because they didn't quite recognize who the character was. It was not immediately
Oh.
recognizable. And I'm realizing that
Yeah.
if I'm doing a younger room, everybody immediately knows who Caillou is. Everybody knows. If it's a
Hmm.
mixed room or a little bit of an older crowd, maybe like Gen X and up, they're not going to know. So I have to find a way, because I still want to do the character. How can I still make it silly or make them get it? Anyway, I'm in the middle of talking. It's a 6-minute set. I'm probably like 2 minutes in. And someone in the audience aloud goes, "Who's Caillou?" Kind of like that. And so for me, I love that. I don't know if most comedians, I love that. I immediately jumped on it, was like, I'm Caillou. What do you mean I'm up on stage, right? So I'm Caillou. I'm
Yeah.
Caillou. What, you guys don't think that cartoon child stars grow up into adult humans? Is that what you guys think, right? You just play with it. I like that. I like when I have to pivot. It's fun for me.
You teach improv theater exercises through your company. You talked about that off the cuff consulting, and I wanted to dive into that some more, but did you formally train in improv?
Yep, I formally trained in improv. Look, you are going to be doing, improv exercises throughout. If you're a theater kid, you're going to be doing improv exercises from the time you step into class, whether it's a warm-up exercise to go on stage, whether it's you just happen to be the thing you're covering that day. Okay, class, let's learn about improv. You're going to be getting, I would say, a decent education in what improv is, just kind of, I don't even want to say passively, but you're going to get an education on improv just throughout your studies. That's just high school. Now, I have a theater degree too, so I studied for 4 years doing theater. And so with that, I have literally taken an improv semester, like an improv class. On top of that, I also studied at the Groundlings Theater. I took a class there at the Groundlings Theater here in Los Angeles. So yeah, I formally trained in improv. And I find that those improv principles are very applicable. I find that I really like using it in stand up, but what I do when I teach is I'll have people come to me who want to be better public speakers. They want to be better at their communication, better storytellers. Some of them want better relationships, whether that's dating or they actually want to work on their existing relationships. They want to be better at networking. Everything under the sun is what I can teach in regards to communication. That was a really convoluted sentence. Everything under the sun having to do with
No, I'm tracking
is
with you.
something that I teach. And I love running exercises with my students that are kind of based in, and some of them are exactly the same as what I learned. We would do to warm up to go out on stage before a show. So I like running the exercises because it's a way you can train your brain to be quick on your feet, and it really does improve your communication.
Yeah, absolutely. I did 4 semesters of improv myself at Second City, and the only reason I didn't do the 5th one because and I don't know if they still do this because this is going back some years, but that 5th semester is like a full-on show that you're working on, like from the beginning to the end. And this is for the career improv guy or girl that wants to do that. And I was like, okay, I don't want to do this for a living. But it's amazing how taking improv classes improves your social skills and just your speaking ability and how to think on your feet if you're in situations where you're doing business presentations or want to start your own channel. Like I've put people onto improv classes just that were trying to launch creator projects and things like that where they had to be on camera and they didn't really have acting experience. And it's it's pretty it can be pretty groundbreaking in your skill set, I've found.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's strange. It's strange that I don't know. Maybe it's just the way society is formed. Improv goes back to Second City to around the 50s or the 60s as an art form. So I'm shocked it took that long that became more or less a codified skill. Because you have different. I guess I shouldn't be too hard on it. Like you have the standard how to win friends and influence people that was back, I want to say, in the earliest 20th century. So the idea that you could teach networking as a skill wasn't really codified until I think Dale Carnegie really did back in the early days. So I guess maybe I shouldn't be too surprised, but for how applicable and how useful I've seen it to be with my students, I'm shocked that it really took that long for it to become its own subset of art that people can learn. And to be quite frank with you, there are some other people, some other call them communication consultants or communication professionals like me who teach this, but not that many, which I'm honestly shocked by given how when I teach people and I run them through improv exercises and I aim it because I pride myself on being very pragmatic with my students. I don't ever run them through scenes like you would have done at Second City. It's more so games and exercises, like what you would do to warm up and stuff like that. I'm shocked that at how high the results have been that no one else really is teaching what I teach to business people. Because man, it is useful. And I'm really fortunate. I love that I get to teach this because I really do love it. But I'm honestly floored that no one else has really taken up the mantle yet, because when you see the other side of it, it's like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, and if you're struggling with shyness, not that it eliminates it, but it just destroys the ability to be shy. Like you just can't be shy in improv. You got to just dive in. And I think it can be very freeing for people because once you start having fun, you loosen up. That shyness falls away. And I just remember the energy with my classmates each semester, and there was a different dynamic each time I went. Different people, some of the same people came, different instructors, but I just remember getting more comfortable with all these strangers that were in the room because, like, the first day, you're just up there, and that was nerve wracking for me. But I remember the very first night where I was taking my first class, I sat in the parking lot just outside of Second City, and I was like, what am I doing? I want to just go home. I'm terrified. My heart was
Yeah.
racing, but man, it was fun.
Um,
It was so
Sounds
much
like my
fun.
first open mic night. Yeah,
Really? What was that like?
everything what you said, the physiological reaction minus the I want to go home. I definitely wanted to be there, but in terms of like,
Okay.
it was weird, man. You do live theater for a very long time, and then you stop. That was my journey with it. So I did live theater for years and years and years, probably from the time I was 13 or 14. I was doing a lot of theater before that. Probably from the time I was about 8, I do choir, or I would be in some sort my parents put me in an acting class when I was really, really young. Um, you're doing a lot of these theater things for years, and then it's weird because when I got to LA after I did that musical, I just stopped because I was focused on other things. I was building my business and I was doing other things. So there was just this weird period in my life where I wasn't really doing theater. And then so I decided to do my first open mic night. I had done a couple open mic nights previous, but none that I had really taken seriously and actually said, all right, let's give this a shot. Let's write out material. Let's run through it. Like I had never really tried. And so it was my friend's, I'll never forget, it's my friend D'Angelo Himes. He's actually blowing up on social media. I'm really, really happy for him. He's got, at this point, almost probably 20 million views. He's blown up in the last couple. Like he literally
Wow.
has gone viral. It's incredible. And I'm really happy for him.
TikTok? Is he on
TikTok and
TikTok?
Instagram and YouTube, but his
Cool.
Instagram is blowing up. He went from like 7,000 followers. I think he's up to 14 or 15,000 now, and that only happened in the last couple months. But anyway, 2.5 years ago, it's around about June, July of 2022, and I had told him, I said, because I had a sense that we both wanted to do stand up. We just never really were on it. And I hadn't done a couple years of live theater at this point. So I said, all right, his birthday rolled around. And I said, hey, I didn't get you anything for your birthday. What I will get you, what we will do, I'm giving you a promise. When you go do your first open mic night, I will go with you. That's what I'll give you for your birthday this year. And he said, okay. And he looked it up. And as it so happens, it's weird how fate works. 2 minutes down the road from his house was a small comedy club, an open mic night comedy club that specifically does open mic nights for the Fourth Wall out in North Hollywood. For anybody who's curious to look it up, I love Fourth Wall. It's one of my favorite clubs. It's where I got my start. And Joe Menente, shout out to the owner of Fourth Wall. Great teacher, great guy. Anyway, he's like, hey, I found this place. You wanna go? And I'm like, yeah, of course. So we went. A couple weeks later, I think we went July 19th, 2022, and yeah, we were sweating. We were sweating. It was just like when you're about to go up on stage to do a musical or a show or something like that. There's that excitement that comes that you can really only get from doing live performance. And I just remember we did it and we had a good time. We did get a couple laughs, so that's pretty cool for your first open mic night. But we went back a couple of times, and we went back later that week, or we went back the next week or whatever. By about the third time, we were still feeling that, and I communicated that to him. I'm like, man, do you feel like excited to do this? You feel like you got that nervous, man, it feels good to have that again. And he's like, yeah, I know, right? Because we had both met each other
Yeah.
doing live theater in college. So yeah, it's Yeah, I totally vibe with what you're saying, and yeah, but that's kind of what makes it fun, though, right? That's kind of what makes it fun.
Oh, totally. And it's a
Yep.
dopamine rush, man. It's a total dopamine rush because it's this like legalized high that you get and then you want it again because it's just
Yes, it is.
fun, right? And it's funny that you I shouldn't say funny, but it's interesting that you describe nerves with a musical. I've done musicals in the past myself. I've been in musicals, several of them, and I didn't have as much like nervousness doing musicals because I was in costume and I was able to hide behind another identity. But when I did stand up, it was terrifying because I had nothing to hide behind. It was just me. It was Mike standing up there by
Yeah.
himself, having to carry this crowd. And so that was a pressure that I didn't feel elsewhere on stages. So there's a different dynamic to it I've found, but it's interesting how your experience seems different with that.
Yeah, people tell me that. I have a very good friend of mine. His name's Sean Zapp. He's hilarious. He's a very fast up and coming comedian here in LA. He is very close to I almost want to say Robin Williams, but different because he uses a lot of props. He's very, very funny, and it's this just energy, and he kind of moves around a lot, and he bounces off the walls, uses a lot of one-liners. Very kind of Steve Martin, Robin Williams esque. He communicated that to me as well, where he said because he'll play characters like he has a character that he does called Bat Guy, where he wears a really shitty Batman mask, and that's the point of it's really first time I ever saw him do comedy. He was the character Bat Guy. I almost fell out of my seat laughing. He's so funny. I was hosting the show literally before I go up because as a good host, when you're hosting a comedy show, you're a good MC. They'll have you do time at the beginning, and then you'll introduce each of the comedians, right? That's how you keep a comedy show going. And so as a good host, what you want to do is make sure you get everyone's introduction. You want to say, all right, man, what do you want me to say when I bring you up? Oh, so you perform all over LA, cool. Oh, you have a show coming up in Austin, Texas, cool. Whatever it is. And so I always write it down to make sure because I want to get their intros right and I want to make sure I pronounce their names correctly. I go up to Sean, and I had met him one time before at another show that he went to. We had hung out for a couple hours and went to like Burger King with him and his roommate and good friend Mason Hodge. Mason Hodge is also a very funny comedian. Anyway, so I had met him one time, but I had met Sean one time. But then I go up at the very beginning of the show to like, hey, what's your intro? And he goes, can you bring me up as the Bat Guy? I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
all right. So I wrote it down, and then I did, and it was hilarious. He goes up there, and he can't. The mask is too small. Kind of. So he's doing his whole bit like this, and his mouth is open the whole set. It's so funny. Anyway,
Is it on YouTube?
no, but he is uploading. If anyone wants to check him out, Sean Zapp. His last name is spelled Zapp.
Okay.
He is on Instagram. I don't know if he does YouTube, but he is starting to post stand-up clips. He's very,
Cool.
very funny.
Cool.
But my point is, he had mentioned this to me as well. He said he likes the character stuff. He had mentioned at some point. He said, yeah, it's almost like you get away. I don't know if he said you can hide behind the character, but he definitely said it's almost like you can get away more with more in character. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
For me, I don't really feel it's weird, bro. When I am in character, I feel like I'm myself. It's weird.
Really?
Like I don't feel like I don't know. I agree with Sean in that you can definitely get more experimental because it isn't you. It is a character, right? Like when I'm Caillou, if I'm screaming at the audience or I'm like really upset with the audience as Caillou,
Yeah.
that's fine because it's not real. It's not Parker, And if anyone ever heckles me while I'm doing like TikTok live, like this isn't funny or like they'll say I had someone last night who was like the character Caillou was actually voiced by a kid or voiced by a woman. You're a fake or something was right. I can look at that and in character I can respond and be like, wow, more feds coming into Caillou's live stream. That's fine. No, more people coming into Caillou's live stream. That's cool. Yeah, no. What you guys just don't think that cartoon characters grow up into adult humans? That's cool. What does that say about you? Must be nice living in that delusion. Like I can just lean into it. Right there, yes, they're saying that about Parker, but if I'm Caillou, I can just roll with it. So in that way, you can get away with more stuff. But for me at least, it's not even like getting away with more stuff. It's more tools. If I'm Caillou and I'm inventing Caillou's backstory and lore on the fly, then who can touch me? No one can, because I can just Aikido it right back into my history of like, this isn't funny. It's like, you're just like the director on the episode of Caillou when I was in the sandbox who said, Caillou, this isn't funny. And I'm like, I'm 4 years old. What do you expect from me? I can always just Aikido it. So to the point, I don't know. I don't feel like when I'm in character, I'm hiding behind the character. I feel like people are seeing the most real version of me, and I don't understand why that's the way I feel, and I know it doesn't make any sense at all. But when I'm in character, that's the most Parker that I am. So I don't know. I lightly disagree with what you say and it's not even that I disagree. You have a different feeling about your art and your performance than I do. In the same way I do kind of with Sean. It's like I feel like I'm the most myself. Maybe Sean would agree with me. I don't know. But it for me, it gives me more tools to play with, and I feel like I'm the most myself when I'm in character.
That's interesting, man. And obviously that mindset you have works for you, and then you can adapt to people heckling you. And it sounds like that's something that you sound like you have naturally just by the situations you're describing. And I love that. That's so important for a successful comedian. I gotta quote a legend here. Don Rickles was the king of that. Am I right? Like, I remember he was on Letterman, man, I don't know, probably in the 90s. There's so many clips.
What are you, a detective?
I don't remember that one. Which one's that?
Ah, great.
Oh, when he was asking him questions?
Yeah, he's on with Denzel. He's on with Denzel Washington.
I remember that now.
Yeah, Conan's asking him about his wife. Oh, you and Frank Sinatra, your wives have the same names. And he just, what are you, a detective? Yeah, it's hilarious.
Or when they'll start booing him, like he would make those off-color jokes, right? Because that was classic Rickles. Like him or hate him, that's what he did. Nobody was safe beside Rickles. And I remember the crowd just booed him because he said something politically incorrect or whatever. And then he just looks up the crowd and he just goes, "There's no booing. There's no booing." And it was awesome. It was all he said. And then he got them back. Like they were back on and they just laughed. And he rescued, I don't even want to say he rescued the moment because he never lost it. Like this guy would own the room. And I love that, right? I've like played Rickles stuff for my kids and my daughter laughs at it because first of all, it's timeless, right? Yep. And the guy was legendary. Like when it comes to comedy, and I love that. You had another clip that I wanted to play, and I got to get it ready here, but it was the bit about, we were talking about it, the 1957 Ford truck outside one of the clubs you were doing.
100%.
And let me
give the audience some context. This clip was actually at the Fourth Wall in North Hollywood, so it's the same venue I did my first open mic night at ever. And this is very, very soon, right after I started doing stand-up. And guys, don't worry. Even though my head is shaved now, I don't dress like a wizard anymore. So when you guys watch this, just know I've changed. Anyway, I think real quick before we play the clip, I think people like it when shit goes wrong now.
Yeah.
Not before. Not 5 years ago, 3 years ago, or whatever, watching media. That's part of the reason I'm really bullish on live stream. Like, I think live streaming is going to become very big. I think because people genuinely want to experience some level of authenticity. Everything is so damn polished now. So who cares? Let it go wrong. Yep. That's what the people want to see.
Yep. There you go.
Do it.
There you go. Maybe I'll play the wrong clip intentionally. Here. You've got plenty, but here it is.
We were chilling out there just commenting on how cool that blue truck was. Did you guys all see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, classic car, just really, really nice. You don't really see a lot of those around LA. We're like, looking at the car, and the guy inside started to get a little bit nervous, so I don't know if he was like, they're gonna all these comments and like pick up my car like clowns and just carry it away with shit. So he came out, he like got in, opened the door, and just shut it and like went. It was just the weirdest thing ever. And I asked him, I said, oh man, I really like your car. He's like, thanks. What year is it? Because my mom had a 1963 Ford. So I was going to talk to him about it. He's like, oh, it's 1957. He just walked back in the restaurant. I was talking to D'Angelo. I'm like, can you imagine owning a car that nice and then being upset that people ask you questions about it? I hope no one asked me about my car today when I drive my obviously refurbished, renewed, redone old car. God, it sucks.
Man, I love that. And that's that. How many of those guys have you met? I mean, every
Yeah.
guy who has a car like that is dying to talk about it, right? You compliment a guy, like whether it's a Porsche or whatever it is, you ask him about his car, you can easily be sitting in a parking lot for half an hour talking about it. He'll tell you what he just did on it. And so to meet a guy
Not
who's
this guy.
upset that you
No.
asked him, it's like,
And you know what's
dude.
funny? That is, I've never done that joke again. That is completely off the cuff, completely improvised, happened right before an open mic. And that's the type of stuff that I love. And I'm not I was decent at it back then. I'm a lot better at it now, and I'm still getting better. But that is what I like to do. I like doing that, and I like character stuff. I like being able to it's fun. I don't know. I have my bits. I have my professional stuff that is, I would argue, very good. And I've worked on it over a long period of time. But moments like that are the most special. When off the cuff, off the top of the thing, you can just talk about something that just happened and have it structured in a way that still is funny and gets a lot of laughs and stuff. So yeah, that happened right before that open mic. And so yeah, that's at an open mic, that clip.
That's great, man. And it's presented like you wrote it. That's what I love. Like I had
know.
no idea. I thought you prepared that.
Not
and
at
that's
all.
I mean, that's awesome. And
Thanks.
I love the way you do observational humor. Like, do you have a process for that? Just in general with your work? Like, obviously that was off the cuff and you hit it like it was golden, but that kind of stuff just happens in your daily life. So like, do you keep a notebook? Do you make notes on stuff? Do you just
Yeah, I
make a
have
mental note? What's your process if you're comfortable sharing?
No, it's okay. So what I do is I have a very large tub. I have a very large tub in my bathroom, and so what I do is I turn on the shower. It's very warm, and then I find myself just pacing back and forth, ranting out loud in the bathroom, pretending that I'm on stage, and that's where all of my material comes from. It's great. That's my entire.
Are you being
process.
serious? Are you being serious?
Unfortunately, not as much. Unfortunately, a little bit too much. Unfortunately, a little bit too much. I don't know if anyone else does that. I'll find myself just walking around in my kitchen and in my tub and just, yeah, it's weird. You just talk things out, as strange as that sounds. So no, I'm being more serious than I would like to be. But in the car too. In the car is good too. But just time when I'm in motion is good for me. When I'm in motion, when I'm moving, that's when a lot of the ideas kind of come. And caffeine, a little nicotine gum certainly doesn't hurt. But what's my process? I have a big ass Microsoft OneNote. I'm gonna let all the hackers know, so they're gonna find me and hack me now, but that's fine. I have a gigantic. I haven't checked how many words it is recently, but it's a lot of words. Last I checked was probably maybe 6 months ago. I had probably 30 or 40,000 words just in a OneNote document of just stand-up ideas. I write a lot. Now, I
Really?
don't do the whole Jerry Seinfeld, you're supposed to write every day thing. I kind of, at this point, I'm just blessed so far with ideas kind of as they come, and I try to capture them and write them down as they come. But I have a lot of material, half-written bits, premises. Oh, that's a funny line, a funny word. I have a lot of that written down. So my real, I'll give you the real, I was joking a little bit earlier, but I'll give you the real process. The real process is I have ideas throughout my day, most of the time when I'm doing something else or when I'm in motion of some kind, like, walking around or driving. And then I'll make sure to write it down in my OneNote, and I write it down literally as if, it's weird. It's like as if I'm writing it down while I'm on stage in my head. It's like I'm there. Like I'll joke about like pacing around in my tub in my shower. We made a mistake when we got this place because it had too big of a tub. It's like, I'm going to spend a half an hour in this tub just walking, pacing in an X formation, writing stand-up in the shower. It's going to be great. And it's almost like in my head, I go, I go on stage. I'm on stage and I'm talking, and it's as if it's weird. It's like as if I'm on stage and I'm timing it really well out loud as I'm talking bits over and over and over again. And I try to capture that in written format. So I try to capture when I'm writing, I'll hit the enter button, or I'll put a dot dot dot, or I'll something that can capture the timing of what I of what I found originally. But that's kind of my process, is just, I guess, being in motion, and something catches my attention and I have a strong feeling about it, and so I write it down. And
Yeah, the reason I asked you if you were serious with the shower thing is there is a certain creativity that comes in the shower, and I don't know if it's because a lot of us are alone, or you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? You're alone in your thoughts. Nobody's talking to you. You're typically not distracted. And sometimes things come to you just in a creative realm. I'm not even just saying comedy wise. So that's why I wouldn't be surprised if you had ideas coming up in the
yeah.
shower just because of that environment that you're in. You know what I'm
My
saying?
girl's knocking. She's like, "Can I come in? And I need to brush my teeth." I'm like, "Shut up! I'm on stage right now. I'm making creative, brilliant in the
I'm
shower.
writing comedy
I'm writing
bits.
comedy bits. The people need to hear my thoughts. What are you doing?" No,
Yeah. 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 Um, I love hearing different processes from different comedians like Louis C.K. He writes just a word and then a whole bit will come out of that. He doesn't prepare material like a lot of guys might, where it's more scripted, or you kind of lay out the beginning, middle, end, punchline, whatever. But he'll see something funny, and I'm not sure if you heard him share this before, but he'll see something funny like I don't know, weird looking business card. I'm just trying to think of something randomly on my desk here. And then he'll just write business card, and he'll remember what it was, and he'll be able to take that to an audience of 30,000 people and just rant on whatever the business card reminds him of. And if that's not comedic genius, I don't know what is.
some of us are blessed with incredible talent. I'm not there yet where I can just like I can make little bits here and there, or I can have. I've done it. I've done it, and I've done it successfully enough where it's like I can do this. I'll have the idea. So I have this joke I'm doing now where my friend D'Angelo, who I mentioned earlier, he uh he keeps bringing up to me the fact that I could regrow my hair is the premise of the bit, and it just I that caught my attention. Like he's like, "Hey, did you check it? Did you see that there's minoxidil that you can put on?" And it'll like he just kept bringing it up, and I'm like, "Why are you bringing this up so much?" And so that's kind of the premise for a bit. And so I had this thought in my head of like, "Oh, here's how I could structure this, like my feelings about him bringing this up to me," and then I just more or less improvised it at a show the other night in San Diego, and it went well. Like it got a good laugh. I'm like, okay, it probably could have got a better laugh if I had worked on it in an open mic, but it still got a decent laugh. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I can do that in small moments, but the ability to do what a guy like Louis C.K. can do, and Tim Dillon. I don't know if do you watch Tim Dillon?
I haven't seen a lot of them, but I'm
I'm a
familiar with
big
them.
fan of Tim Dillon, man. I've seen him live a couple of times. He just brings down the house. It's incredible to watch
Yeah.
what he can. He's a really really good comedian, but his whole style is ranting. So on his podcast, he will have something that he'll talk about where he'll say like I don't know. He had this whole thing 4th of July a year or two ago where an audience member submitted a question was like, "What does it mean to be an American?" And so he just goes into this rant. To be an American, and I'm going to get it all wrong, but he goes, an American, what being an American means to me is the ability to be addicted to prescription pills while your toddler is as well. Being an American to me is the ability to eat hot dog. Like it's just weird. It's like he takes that idea and he just unwraps the
Yeah.
gift over and over and over again. It's incredible, truly, to watch.
Why do we like rants so much? Because I love when comedians rant. There's just something funny about it. Are we just in an angry age where we want to hear more of that, or what do you think that is?
I have a theory about it. It's very woo woo. I think it's
What do
I
you think?
think it's the your I think it's an experience of energy. I think there is a comedic energy, comedic force. There's a way that at least in my experience, the ranter feels. And I think that you get to experience that over and over and over again when someone is really attuned to what they do. Like Rickles, when he walks into the room, you feel it. You feel it. He's in character, if you like. You feel the angry, irritable guy. Like you feel it, whatever he is, you're feeling it, and so you're almost on the edge of your seat. Like what? Because it's like he's almost more in touch with who he is more than everyone else in the room. There's an authenticity there of he's riding that line so hard. When I do character comedy, I'll say the phrase, you got to sit into the character. You got to sit into it. I'm not great at it yet. I'm working on the character stuff, but like the Caillou stuff's pretty funny so far. And when I go up on stage, I'm trying to just sit in that character. I have a couple pre-planned bits. I have a couple jokes that work. Most of the time, I just try to play off the audience, and I just roll with what they're giving me. But the idea is I'm in that moment. Like you mentioned earlier with the Caillou video, I have an attitude immediately when I'm on stage. I think that's what makes it the funniest, is the fact that I'm feeling whatever that is super hard. I'm in it. And so when someone rants like Tim Dillon, I think that he's brilliant in terms of how he paints pictures for people. I think the specificity of what he chooses is incredible. But I think what makes us as audience members really lock into like a rant style comedy routine is we're watching someone who's who's experiencing, I think, a pure amount of emotion. And I really do think that transfers over and that carries over into the audience. And so you watch a guy like Sam Kinison, who is good at that.
Yeah.
Why do people laugh at Sam Kinison? He was just screaming the whole time. It's because you feel it, I think.
Yep.
I think. And that's not... Sam was not a traditional stand-up by most standards, because he just had that scream, that iconic scream, the Sam Kinison scream. And and for some reason, he just get right in the audience face, and and he just go for it. And then that made people just die laughing. It was so funny, and I think it's an energy transfer.
No, you're right, man. And I got to retract what I just said, because I was saying like what I was making it a more contemporary thing. But you're right. Sam Kinison did it. Rickles did it. I mean, we're just talking about him. And I'm doing a Google search here on top ranting comedians, and I'm forgetting people like Doug Stanhope.
I haven't watched a lot of Doug,
list?
but
okay, yeah, just
yeah.
ranter. Like Dennis Miller did a lot of ranting in the '80s. Who else is on this list? Let me look here. Richard Lewis. I don't know if you're a Richard Lewis
Never
fan,
seen
but
At least coming to
really,
mind. Yeah, at least coming to mind.
see, dude, I'm showing my age here, but he just died not too long ago. But Richard Lewis was fantastic too, and I, based on the things you're telling me, I think you would enjoy him.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It is that energy, and I guess we become part of that energy, and that's why we enjoy it so much. That's a great way to put it. I like the way you put that.
You got to be you. We're in an age. You want to talk about being contemporary? We are in an age where there's not a lot of authenticity floating around. Okay, you can talk about politics if you want. I'm not actually really talking about that. I am, but I'm not. I'm more talking about the age, how media is consumed and sent. It's not, everything is very, very polished now. You're seeing, I'm actually making it a point now. I'm no longer watching clips that are under 90 seconds. I personally, if it's a comedy routine or it's something that someone puts out of themselves that's under that amount, I'll watch it because that's the way the artist or the speaker clearly intended for it to be heard, because they released it on their own account. But in terms of like watching clips of other people, for somebody like on X or whatever, I'm not doing that anymore, because it's just too polished. It's too much of like, it's been polished in terms of like, here's a rough stone, let me just smooth it all down and then make it into what I want to make it, and here you go, I'm going to hand it to you that way. And it's like, I don't know if that's the way that person originally intended to be heard, but whatever. My point is, there's too much of that. There's too much of people being taken out of context. There's too much, and it's to me, it doesn't work anymore. I'm more interested in rough. I'm more interested in improvised, off the cuff. That's why I'm so hyped up on live streaming right now and long form podcasting, because you know, people can watch this now and decide whether they love me or whether they hate me, but at least they saw me in the middle of me talking, you know, at least they saw me in the full context. So I think that today people are really, really drawn to authenticity. And if there's someone who, despite all of those feelings of nervousness, you know, exhilaration, whatever, of like, despite all of that, can still be themselves on stage in front of that many people and excel and win, I think that's something that people are really attracted to.
Absolutely, man. Parker, this has been a lot of fun. We're out of time. We're out of time. I'm being a scripted host right now, but we're out of time, man. And I mean, I'd love to have you back because I didn't even get to half the things I wanted to discuss with you. And there's nothing better than these organic conversations where you're just speaking off the cuff. You know what I'm saying?
I love to talk, Mike. I don't know if podcasting's good for me because it just allows me to talk all the time. I don't know. But yeah, I'd love to come back. I had a great time.
Awesome, man. Awesome. How can people find you?
So you on every social, besides X, this middle schooler took the handle at the Parker Dean on X. I need to pay him off so I can get it. But every other social media, you can find me at the Parker Dean. TikTok, Instagram. I have the largest following out of all of them. For me on TikTok right now, I have like 17,000 some followers. It's been amazing. Live streaming has been very, very good to me. I run my show every night at 11 p.m. Pacific time besides Saturdays. So I'll be on. Whenever is this, a Thursday? Yeah, I'm going to be live tonight. We're recording on a Thursday. So yeah, I do that every night, 11 p.m. Pacific time. I'll show up in character as Caillou, or I'm working on Mr. Clean too, so that'll be fun.
Oh, Mr.
Yep,
Clean.
I figured it out.
All right. You got to shave, dude.
Yeah,
You got to shave.
We'll see
to
if
pull
the
off Mr.
internet
Clean.
rejects a bearded Mr. Clean. And that's the thing too, you know, it's like people be like, Mr. Clean isn't bearded, and it's like, you don't think that Mr. Clean could go through some facial hair phase in his life? You don't think that, you know, you just play it.
Yeah.
So
sure.
you can find me everywhere at the Parker Dean. In terms of being coached by me, if anyone is interested in being a better public speaker, being, you know, having a better dating life, being better at networking, being a better storyteller, anything in regards to communication, people really just want to, you know, up their communication skills. The world has low emotional and social intelligence right now. We were all locked in our houses for a very long time. So it's nice to be, I see a burgeoning trend of people who are ready to get back out there, make new friends, get back out into the dating pool, get back out there and be social again. That's why I love teaching what I teach, and that's called Off the Cuff Consulting. We have a course that we're selling right now called Mouthpiece Mastery. It's my best thing I've created so far. It's 8.5 hours of video content, a weekly meetup, a weekly call where we all run improv exercises together. We have a community chat. It's a really great place, and it's Mouthpiece Mastery. I'm sure, I think I might have already sent you the link, but if I didn't, Mike, I'll make sure to send you the link. And yeah, everyone can feel free to come check it out. I'm really proud of that product, and it's really great. You get in with a community of people who, you get to run games and exercises, and your social skills go through the roof. You know, at Off the Cuff, we pride ourselves. We are the premier academy for people looking to speak better off the cuff.
That's great, man. Yeah, we'll put that stuff in the show notes for sure. Do send that to me again just so I have it, so I can include it, and we'll have you on again, man. Really appreciate it, Parker. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun for me too. Thank you for dealing with me having to restart my computer at the beginning of this, but we made it work.
We did. We pulled it off. Well, that's it. We're out of here. Check us out always at MikeCPodcast.com. If you have a favorite comedian, drop us a note. Leave us a comment. Let us know who you like to watch. I know it's Parker Dean. So do that, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks, everybody.
The Mike C Podcast.